Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, aren't there a lot of you? I'm Alan Fielder. We're going to take a look at the conditions in the market in which we have to operate. Things obviously don't look terribly pretty for the UK at present, but I'm going to hopefully look at the background in terms of the UK. I'm going to look at some statistics from the market. I'm not going to go into too much depth because I'm male and therefore genetically shallow, but we'll also look at some trends and some forecasts for our industry going forward. So first of all, we need to look at the economic backdrop. Sorry, they're not my teeth, I borrowed them from Andy. We have a global recession we're all aware of, and the UK is particularly problematic for us right now. We've got a national debt which has reached 2.8 trillion, which is £33,000 for every man, woman and child in the country. We have a banking crisis, so we know that companies in difficulty probably won't be able to borrow their way out of trouble, and it's very unlikely that the bank will offer much support in difficult times. So I think this is all the more reason that we need to be looking to trade our way out of trouble then. There is some good news, of course. Northern Rock are going back in the mortgage market. Obviously, the government are now supporting the banks under a sort of pseudo-nationalisation, and the credit crunch is definitely biting. The bonus is, of course, for anybody that is in a position to borrow, we can get some nice low interest rates, so there are cheaper funds. I'm going to look now at a CBI forecast. Why use the CBI forecast? Because one thing I've learned in the last 30 years in this country is not to trust anything that says official. At least the CBI are having a stab at being out there. So the Federation of British Industries forecast that the economy is going to contract about 3.3% this year, compared with its previous forecast of 1.7% in November. They also predict 2.7 million people unemployed by the end of 2009, and the top 3 million next year. Government borrowing will be £148 billion this year, which is well above the £118 billion that Chancellor Alistair Darling expects. And the Treasury expects borrowing to fall in 2010 to £105 billion, but CBI reckons again it'll rise to £168 billion. They don't expect the Bank of England to cut interest rates much further than the current 1%, which is, after all, the lowest in the bank's history. But it expects the speed and severity of the recession, as well as the drop in energy prices and the recent VAT cut, to push inflation well below the bank's 2% target. In spite of all the gloom, the reports that spending will stabilise early next year, with recovery growing through 2010. But Alistair Darling's forecast that the economy would start to grow again in July never looked plausible and now looks absurd, according to Lib Dem economic spokesman Jeremy Brown. Can I take a bit of a look, or before I do look at the fenestration sector, I suppose the other thing to bear in mind is that if you're exporting or importing, you're also dealing with some quite violent currency exchange fluctuations, certainly affecting our own business where we trade in the USA and in Europe. And obviously if you're dealing with Ireland, the fluctuating exchange rates are going to cause you some problems. And this was brought home to me graphically. I didn't realise how fluctuations cause everybody problems, but I was in the queue at the Bureau de Change at Heathrow last week, and I was behind a very animated Japanese gentleman who, it seemed, had just come back from 2 weeks in Tokyo. And he was getting very cross with the cashier, and he was saying basically, "How come you only pay me half now what you charged me last week? What go on? You're robbing me." And the guy said, "I'm sorry, sir, fluctuations." He said, "Oh yeah? Well, fuck you British too." Sorry. My profound apologies. Apparently he was really from Taiwan. When we start now to look at the fenestration sector, I gratefully acknowledge the assistance of David Amos from D&G Consulting, along with his cohort Godfrey Arnold. They're both here today, and I'm sure they'd be happy to take orders for their UK PVCU Windows, Doors and Conservatory Book of Forecasts 2002 to 2012, which has been published in the last week or so. Basically, not necessarily good news for us. The window, door and conservatory market fell by 16% in volume last year compared to 2007, and that's as measured by both window profile and sealed units. The market's fallen every year since 2003, when the market peaked. And at the end of 2008, the volume was back to 1999 levels. We're forecasting a further fall of 14% next year compared to 2008, and we'll be back to 1997 levels. By the end of 2009, the market will have fallen 39% compared to 2003. Forecast for 2010 is flat, and by 2012, the market will recover to 1998 levels. So not terribly exciting there then. Okay, the chart that you see before you is there for its colourful content, but also very informative. We'll look again, or look in a bit more detail at what's going on. Obviously, you can see that new build has levelled out and is set to plummet this year, and then a recovery through 2010 into 2011. You see extensions and so on are pretty flat. Conservatories won't save us this time. Conservatory forecast is well down. But the most dramatic thing there, which we'll look at in a bit more detail, is obviously the demise of first-time replacement windows. The good news, which is what we really need to talk more and more about, and probably why we're here, that there is a healthier market in second-time replacements that we really need to go after. I want to look at house building. In 2007, there were 203,000 starts. I'm using starts as a measure because nobody seems to finish them at the moment. But in 2008, it fell to 124,000. Starts in 2009 are forecast to be down to 80,000. And even in 2010, only 100,000. There is a bit of a stock press on that we'll look at later. But fundamentally, the new build market will be down in 2009 by a massive 60%. Okay, we've been hearing for some years now that we were approaching saturation point on first-time window replacement. First-time replacements have now reached 81% of installed windows. It's not whole dwellings, many have part double glazing. These statistics are available from the English House Condition Survey. And obviously among the remainder are listed buildings. First-time replacements have fallen from 6 million windows in 2003 to 2.7 million in 2008, and will fall again in 2009. The reason's obvious, that the pool is reducing. There's a double whammy effect because installers are changing old windows, but there are also 30,000 dwellings demolished every year, and of course, new build dwellings have double glazing as standard. So the pool for first-time replacements is now small, and there are a lot of installers chasing them, plus a proportion are subject to the Decent Homes Initiative where contracts are already in place. So the key message is there isn't going to be a return to the good old days. More and more fabricators and installers will falter because there isn't enough work now for everyone. And the whole supply chain will suffer, whether it's a hardware supplier, machinery supplier, glass supplier, or the systems company. But what about replacements then? Well, there were 150 million double-glazed windows fitted between 1980 and 2008. This is windows, not conservatory units. But 77% were fitted over the last 15 years, so they're relatively new. So the pool of first-time replacement windows that are older than 15 years is small. And like first-time replacements, there are a lot of installers chasing them. Of the 149.6 million windows installed from 1980 to 2008, excluding conservatories, all but 35 million are under 15 years old. So there's little natural motivation for consumers to replace them. Second-time replacements are slowly increasing, up from 1.3 million in 2003 to 2.3 million in 2008. But they're not as fast as the first-time windows are decreasing. And why would that be? Could it be because we haven't made a strong enough case? Conservatories won't save the fabricator and installers as they have done in the past, because volumes have fallen 33% and will fall further in 2009 as the credit crunch bites. There's very good news for composite doors. They're a positive, but driven in part by the social housing programme where 60% of the volume goes. I think it would be remiss to look at our marketplace without taking into account the considerable power in a marketing sense of the green machine and the potential afforded by Europe's fastest growing market sector. Far cleverer people than me can debate the rights, wrongs, myths, truths, lies, and science of the endless green topics. All I want to do is flag up some of the sound bites that can possibly appeal to our prospective customers and make us more interesting to them and strengthen the case for replacing comparatively new windows that they see nothing wrong with. The great thing with green issues, everybody has a view. Consequently, green issues are an immensely powerful marketing tool for us, whether we're talking to rampant tree huggers, manic motorists, raving recyclers, prolific polluters, or even those in total denial. Everybody has a view. Even our kids are getting involved. We have the Eco Schools programme, which is part funded by DEFRA, and kids are absorbing this this information. They know all about carbon footprints. I mean, when I was a kid, my carbon footprint was the dirty mark I left on the lino when I filled the coal scuttle. But today's kids are really switched on. My little niece avidly watches a BBC children's programme called Pippin, where a little bearded collie runs around enthusiastically recycling. Get them young, I say. But let's exploit this big green PR machine. 3 years ago, our emphasis was probably on our potential to help save the planet. And while this emphasis may have shifted in the last year, it's still a strong motivator for many people. A stark possibility that struck me is, according to National Geographic, unless we can change things dramatically, the polar bear will be extinct within 15 years. Now, as a generation, we grew up learning about the dodo becoming extinct and the great auk and things, and although we've probably lost a few bugs and plants in our lifetime, we haven't seen the extinction of a major species, an animal that we grew up seeing in zoos and our kids encounter at SeaWorld when they step off the helicopter ride. An even sadder irony is that now tourists flock in their thousands to the Arctic Circle to watch polar bear migrations that have been brought around by climate change and the loss of polar bear habitat. And in doing so, of course, they threaten the existence of the Eskimos tribes whose territory they trample all over. Another thing we now have, I mean, one of the memorable moments from the Ricoh seminar in 2006 when I was in the audience was when Dr. Robin Kent actually informed us that the UK was no longer energy self-sufficient. I don't know why that came as a shock to me, but it did. And we have become a net importer of energy. I listened in completely stunned belief as he told us how we now import our gas from such politically stable countries as Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and we pipe it across Georgia and the Ukraine. And that is if the Russian at the controls is in the right frame of mind. Bit of a motivator then to prioritise our energy effectiveness. Energy efficiency. Our potential audience have suffered extraordinary increases in their home fuel costs in recent times, and anyone involved in running a business had a real annus horribilis where their energy costs were concerned. I remember seeing a video interview with Jim Rawson of Epwin a few months ago where he actually outlined the increased cost to his business purely from energy. These are all real people, and they're all our potential market for replacing the replacements. Who wouldn't be interested in a sales proposition that will save them significant amounts of money on their fuel bills, as Andy said? We get into the areas of sustainability. President Barack Obama received a standing ovation from Congress and the Senate this week when he pointed out that it won't matter what we do about the global or domestic economic situations if we don't have a planet to enjoy the recovery on. Sustainability is the current buzzword for just about every organisation in every industry, but this particular industry can boast serious sustainability credentials. So let's make sure we keep our marketplace fully informed of the good things each of our businesses are doing in the area of sustainability. Even though the current economic environment may be difficult for the property sector, property and climate change will be the big energy challenge, because policies and legislation relating to climate change and energy consumption will continue to advance. When the economic situation improves, companies that have addressed the challenges of energy efficiency may find themselves better placed to take advantage of an eventual upturn in the property market. The Climate Change Act became law on the 26th of November 2008, and it outlines the government's objectives by legally binding the UK to reductions in greenhouse gases by at least 80% by 2050 against the 1990 baseline. While not specifically targeting the property sector, government considers buildings to be accountable for approximately 50% of our total carbon emissions. And up to now, the focus has been largely on new buildings, the Code for Sustainable Homes, etc. But new developments represent only a small percentage of the building stock in the UK, And so any effective actions to reduce energy consumption and emissions from buildings will need to target the existing stock, since this is where the major gains will be made. The energy performance is the start point here, but needs significant refinement if it's to be really effective. And I personally think our industry has got a lot of work to do in this area. It doesn't acknowledge anything that we're doing, and I think we need to change that. Future initiatives will continue to test the property sector, so I do apologise. And the government has already indicated its intention within its strategy for sustainable construction for all new homes to be zero carbon by 2016, locking in step changes to the building regulations in 2010 and 2013. Informed opinion is leaning towards window energy ratings becoming an important part of these building regulations changes. There is an expanding raft of organisations out there promoting green in various arenas, and they offer excellent information and resources that can help us in our selling and marketing endeavours. They also contribute effectively to the growing awareness of green issues. A notable absentee from this slide is probably the most important to us, and we'll be hearing from Sarah Pearce later today about the activities of the Energy Saving Trust. And I want to look at development of the window energy rating system from a people perspective, probably. The window energy rating system is much maligned by people that don't bother to understand it. It was designed to be a simple way for consumers to compare the relative energy performance of window types. A cost-effective level playing field, nothing more, nothing less. It's not without its critics, although a lot of the criticisms you hear are based on lack of understanding or selfish angles. And most of the so-called anomalies and aberrations are actually common sense measures that enable it to function. It does function, and it's already proved to be an invaluable tool for many companies. So today's programme is all about looking at how we can use window energy ratings for healthier business and to look at the opportunities presented. Before doing that, I'd like to take an opportunity to review the development of the window energy rating system, starting with the people who've driven things to where we are now. And there really is no agenda here other than some due recognition. And I apologise right now for any oversorts or emissions from this mini montage. If you're in the room and you've been influential in the development of window energy ratings, and I'm not mentioning you, it's because your contribution hasn't come onto my radar or your cheque hasn't cleared yet. Okay? You must remember it's Mrs. Fielder who knows everything. I have to rely on research and information provided. So I want to look at some window energy rating pioneers. Initially, we have Mr. Kevin Cubbage and Dr. Robin Kent, founders of the British Fenestration Rating Council. Kevin was chairman of the BFRC from October 1997 until May 2006, and enjoyed the enthusiastic support of Dr. Robin Kent. These gentlemen were the founding fathers, and I personally believe we owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude. Other pioneers include Alan Burgess of Masterframe, who achieved the very first window energy rating with his vertical slider from the deepest Essex. Piper Windows in Ramsgate in Kent, first A-rated window with a Vica matrix, triple glazed, 70mm configuration. Jim Moody from TradeLink Direct achieved the first double glazed A-rated window. Mark Warren from Lister Trade Frames, a very early adopter, and also one of his customers, achieved the first full house window installation. Having met some of these people and visited their business, these are positive, enthusiastic, motivated people who obviously inspire the same qualities in those around them, since all of these businesses are very positive places full of motivated individuals, and they're a real pleasure to visit. So maybe WERs are good for your personality as well. I really hate doing this. Andy Jones has probably been the greatest ambassador for the cause of window energy ratings and energy efficient windows. He's been very energetic. Obviously, he organised the energy efficiency seminar at the Ricoh in 2006. He has lodged a petition on the 10 Downing Street website back in 2006, calling for reduced VAT on energy efficient windows. He wrote several times to the then Prime Minister Tony Blair. And last November, Andy's petition was presented to the House of Commons by UK Independence Party MP Dr. Bob Spink, and is now recorded in Hansard, and therefore Andy Jones is now part of the Constitution of the United Kingdom. Said I'd do that for you, didn't I? He's joined by another of today's speakers, Andy McDowell of Pilkington, And he's been a staunch supporter of energy efficiency in glazing, and he's featured prominently in numerous roadshows on the subject all over the UK and Ireland. He writes regularly in the trade press, and indeed has just been awarded his energy doctorate by Glass Times. Some champions of window energy rating. Andy Ball has been in several incarnations and continues to be an enthusiastic champion of window energy ratings, and he's helped numerous businesses to develop their offering along energy efficiency lines. Mark Barsby of De Koning designed in his previous life one of the first energy efficient PVCU window systems long before it became fashionable. And since joining De Koning, he's pushed them forward with window energy ratings and continues to lead from the front with their customer projects. Phil Parry of Eurocell and Adrian Redshaw of HL Plastics may not be happy about sharing the same slide, but they've both been involved in real design work. Phil Parry has adapted a system and introduced new components in the system to take it to new levels in window energy rating performance. And Adrian Redshaw designed his linear system from the off with energy ratings in mind, and tweaked it along the way to make sure that it did what it said on the tin. Giles Wilson, GGF Director for Technical Affairs, and his colleagues at BFRC since 2006 have coped with remarkable growth in take-up, and we'll see that growth in a moment. I think the scheme wouldn't be the scheme we have today without Giles, and we'll hear from him a little later about some exciting developments at BFRC for 2009 and beyond. That's the end of the embarrassing part for individuals. I just want to look at some milestones in BFRC history, just so we understand where it's come from and where it's going. In 1997, the Partners in Innovation project brought together British Woodworking Federation, 3 university research organisations, an energy consultant and a window surveyor, and won the backing of the government to find a way to thermally assess a whole window. In 2001, the BFRC, supported by the British Woodworking Federation, became the lead partner of an 8-country project to develop a European window energy rating system, part funded by the EU SAVE programme, which resulted in the EU A to G window energy label based on one size and one configuration for each window, design and specification for each country. An important achievement has also been to establish the network of BFRC simulators, currently 31, to carry out all the computer simulation work from which we derive window energy ratings. In 2003, the Energy Saving Trust threw their support behind BFRC, and in 2004, the window energy rating system was actually introduced to the marketplace. It was in 2005, in May, that we got our first energy-rated window, and this was achieved by Masterframe Windows of Witham, Essex. In 2005, the Energy Savings Recommended endorsement for windows achieving a rating of C or better was endorsed by the Energy Saving Trust. And in 2005, we got the first A-rated window with pipers, as we said earlier. Sorry, I'm getting used to the auto cue, but you need to catch up. February 2006, TradeLink Direct from March in Cambridgeshire achieved the first double glazed A rating with a Ricoh S706 window using special thermal profile insert, soft coat low E, and low iron glasses, Krypton gas fill, and super space, isn't it? We also saw a review of building regulations in 2006 that saw window energy ratings included as one of the optional methods of demonstrating compliance with approved document L. And as the industry started to take up window energy ratings, it became clear that resource would be required to run the BFRC successfully, far beyond the part-time services of Kevin Cubbage and Robin Kent. Thus, the Glass and Glazing Federation took over responsibility for the BFRC in 2006. Also in 2006, an industry seminar entitled Increase Your Profits, Energy Efficiency and Focus, sponsored by Edgetech, was held at the Ricoh Arena, Coventry. Over 200 delegates attended, and the event proved to be a major landmark in the bedding in of window energy ratings to the marketplace. Later that year in August, Lister Trade Frames customer Sterling Windows carried out the first whole house A-rated window installation for Mr. and Mrs. Clark at their home in Baswich, Staffordshire. with triple glazed halo window, 5-chamber windows featuring Pilkington K, Opti-White argon, and superspacer. In the autumn of 2006, Rapid Frame of Walsall achieved the first generally acknowledged cost-effective double-glazed A-rated window, again using Pilkington K, Opti-White and argon fill in the Aluplast Ideal 70 window system. In 2007, Glasex featured an energy efficient zone in which the uptake of window energy ratings was really pushed on and it continued to raise the profile of windows and energy in the trade media. Last year we saw Beaufort Aluminium achieve the first double glazed aluminium A rating and develop an energy efficient proposition for their systems. This year, and I don't want to steal Giles' thunder, but we have a complete redesign of the BFRC website, which he'll tell you a bit more about later, and an interesting PR campaign. And of course, we have the Energy Efficiency in Focus seminar today. Next week, we have Eco Build and Future Build, where I know one of our competitors is going to be very active. I know GGF are going to be very active. Also, a shameless plug, on March the 18th, 2009, an event called Glass Talk is taking place at the Hilton Metropole in Birmingham. I understand there are still some spaces left, and I was a staunch supporter of it until yesterday. Send me an invoice, will you? No, I'm sure it'll be a great event, and I'm sure window energy ratings will be one of the topics of the day. And of course, later in the year, we have Interbuild and Glasex. Just to look at where we've gone, and Giles will provide a lot more detail on the number of window companies and windows now registered with BFRC, but I just wanted to illustrate the point of where we've come since 2006. You can see that at 28th of July 2006, there were just 65 registered windows, and in just under 3 months we saw this increase by over 50% to 100. Numbers are now doubling year on year, and you can see that there are now over 1,200 registered windows, so we think it might be catching on. Just for interest's sake, this is the ratio of energy-rated windows by material type. Now, we wanted to know how important energy ratings are to the fabricators and installers out there in the marketplace, so I commissioned a small survey last week, and we spoke to 100 window fabricators, and these were window fabricators using PVC, and aluminium, making mainly 251 to 500 frames a week. An interesting point that emerged from the survey and from the questions, please, in the majority of cases where fabricators said no, they perceived that glazing had the most impact on the window energy rating result, and they felt most systems could be made to perform with the right glazing spec. I mean, that was an opinion volunteered and not solicited. Yeah,
the energy performance of a window system now would be the key, or certainly right at the top there of the points to choose a window system on today. We've been quite fortunate in the system that we do use, have been very proactive, which is WHS Halo, in the energy ratings field. But if ever we did change, that would be a key factor of the energy performance of the window.
Well, really, that's a no-brainer, because I don't think you could even consider setting up something now which didn't take in the fact that you can have energy saving with it. So I don't think really the question would even comes into it. I don't think you'd be able to set up a company now without the ability to have the energy rating with it.
The window energy rating scheme is central to the company's strategy from a product platform point of view. Our HeatGuard branded range of products rely heavily on being able to perform better than same as products in the market. Window energy rating, since its introduction, has played a very important part in everything we've done as a company. In fact, we strived, put a lot of time, energy and effort into achieving the first A-rated double-glazed window energy rating at the BFRC during its initial introduction.
So we asked them, if you were selecting a window system to fabricate today, would your decision be influenced by the system's window energy rating performance potential? 75 answered yes. So you can probably guess how many answered no. We then asked 100 installers, are you aware of window energy ratings? 96% answered yes, and 4% answered no. So no problems with awareness at the coalface then, or are there? While most were aware, several had only very sketchy knowledge of the scheme, and a few commented they'd get away with ordinary glass if they could. They were asked, if you were selecting a new supplier today, would availability of energy-rated windows influence your decision?
The window energy rating is very important to us, as we like to sell high-quality windows with the top spec. We wouldn't sell anything other than energy-rated windows. We like to give our customers the choice. It's very important in the sense that if you go to see someone and you need an edge in order to make the sale, then you should be able to sell them or give them the choice of the various energy ratings and make them make their own choices through that.
So we asked them, if you're selecting a new supplier today, would availability of energy-rated windows influence your decision? 72% answered yes, 28% no. We then asked them, if they're available, would you pay more for them? 46 answered yes, 54 answered no. So I'm sure there's a few fabricators in the room will be taking note there. Yes, they want them, and if they're available, at least half of them, or nearly half of them, are prepared to pay for them. And cost was seen as the key issue by installers, a lot of them looking for the lowest cost option. A frequent comment was, I'm not being asked for it by my customers. Another one was, it'll probably be law next year, so we'll worry about it then. I think they might be missing a trick. The process of window energy ratings will be detailed later on. I just wanted to pick up on something which seems to me to be quite important. We do talk about it out in the marketplace. A lot of people seem to be a little bit slow to pick up on this. But the integrity of the window energy ratings and how they can help us sell in the market, it would be really negligent not to mention the unique integrity of the window energy rating system. Because with conventional accreditations, less scrupulous salespeople than you and I can, in a matter of minutes, with a photocopier and a bottle of Tipex and a PC and a printer, produce a plausible personalised copy of a borrowed kite mark, Q mark, BBA certificate, whatever, and present it to prospective customers. Because the window energy rating system is administered on the web, it's always live and can only support valid claims. You can't say, oh, we did the test weeks ago, but the certificate hasn't come through yet. So they can't be faked or fudged. And salespeople who think through how they're going to use this have a very powerful sales tool available to them at the click of a mouse. Your window is either there or it isn't. And the same is for your competitors. Oh, he says he's got an A, does he? Well, let's just check that. And how important is the web? Has everybody got the web? Well, in 2008, 16.5 million households in the UK had access to the internet. And that was an increase of 1.2 million on 2007, and an increase of 5 million since 2002. Broadband access has also gained ground, up 5% on 2007. For some reason, adults under 70 with a degree are most likely to have access, at 93%. While those with no formal qualifications, least likely at 56%. Our research and our customers' experiences tell us that more and more consumers are using the web to research their purchases. So all the more reason then to align yourself with a BFRC website, align your proposition with window energy ratings, and get something on the web that says so. So in recognition of this, and in order to realise maximum advantage, we've developed a special consumer-facing web microsite for our dealership programme, where all our customers have to do is get a code, and their designer puts it on his site, so they have an instant consumer-facing website. Any updates we make will automatically be applied to their sites. We feel that this is a big opportunity going forward. No great shakes today, maybe, but important part of tomorrow. As we go forward, I'm sure Andy McDowell will enlarge on possible future legislation in a few moments, but we can, I think, rest assured that the bar is going to be raised rather than lowered. So as time goes on, we're going to need to continue to improve the energy performance of the products we offer. We've already seen that window systems are now being designed and developed with energy performance as their priority, and this will remain a challenge. We've seen remarkable progress in glass coating technology in both soft and hard coat products in recent years. I'm sure there's more to come. Edgetech now has worthy competitors in the warm edge spacer sector, and we're continually looking to improve the effectiveness of our products. And of course, design specification is another area that can push us all on to create even more energy efficient windows going forward, such as the zero carbon home 0.8 watts per metre square Kelvin U value window developed by LB Plastics that achieves a window energy rating of +29. just to get away from the doom and gloom scenario of the economics, there are going to be work opportunities going forward. The Decent Homes programme is still running, and while the lion's share of fenestration has probably already been awarded, if not completed, as we approach the original deadline of 2010, there are still a large number of homes remaining to be improved. The government is fully committed to the Building Schools for the Future initiative, and there are certainly opportunities arriving in the refurbishment section of the programme with window energy ratings, where the client is responsible for ongoing maintenance and, of course, running costs. For anyone prepared to pick their way through the procurement process, there'll also be opportunities arising from the London 2012 Olympics, both directly as a result of the regeneration of Lower Lee Valley and the construction of the Olympic Village, and there should also be significant refurbishment opportunities as the hotel industry gets its act together for what should be a bumper year for them. Following commitments made by Number 10, the Home and Community Agency is planning to bring forward 2.7 billion of spending that they intended for 2010 to make the total 2009 budget a colossal 5.4 billion, all aimed at increasing the supply of affordable accommodation and protecting construction jobs. But I think the real opportunity, or the real opportunities for our industry, lie with upping our game with regard to second-time replacement windows. If we're going to get people to change comparatively new windows that they can't see anything wrong with, then we're going to have a coherent and powerful proposition to motivate them to change. There is going to be no return to the good old days, but energy-efficient windows can provide that proposition. We can offer them windows that will help the environment, help them to feel good about themselves. And Andy believes the majority of people are light green, and that they like to do the right things, but only if it doesn't inconvenience them or cost them too much. So we can make them feel good, we can save energy, we can save money as a result, and we can save the planet for future generations. And in doing so, we might just save our business as well. Thank you very much.